Hi all, and welcome to the Rudy's Front Desk Town Hall 2019. First off, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this and listen to this, and I want to thank you all for all of your hard work. We wouldn't be Rudy's without you. So what are we doing here? So last year, for those of you that worked here last October, November, we had a town hall at the Silver Lake shop, and we had about 5 or 6 of them up here in Seattle. So we did that because it was going into the beginning of the holiday season, a really busy season for us, and we had a bunch of new initiatives that we wanted to talk about and some new offers and for you guys that we wanted to discuss. So similar situation as last time, we're coming into the busiest season of the year. June, July, and August are the 3 consecutive busiest months of the year. So we wanted to just get everyone together in all the markets and kind of just tell them all the same information. So we have some things planned for you today that I'll go over in just a second. First off, on the agenda, we'll start with summer business, and then we're going to go to Jeff is going to talk about front desk customer service expectations, and then I'm going to talk about our diversity initiative, and then John's going to go over cash management policy, cut packs, color best practices, adjusting prices for services, and some front desk floater changes that actually don't so much pertain to you guys in other markets. So summer business. So for those of you that are maybe new to this industry, this is the busy time of the year. This is when the stylists make their money. This is when our shops make the most money. So June, July, and August, up until Labor Day, is really the busiest time of the year. So after Labor Day, up until about the week before Thanksgiving, that's a really slow period. So now is the time that we want to make the money. Now is the time that we make all our money. So first thing I want to talk about is accurately adding requests and look and walk. So as all of you know, stylists get raises based off of KPIs. It stands for Key Performance Indicators. One of those is the request or retention rate. So it needs to be 35% in order for them to hit one of those KPIs, which goes towards one of their raises. So it's just very accurate. I'm sure most of you are doing this, but please make sure that if a stylist is specifically requesting, or excuse me, if a client is specifically requesting a stylist, that you make sure and you note that as a request. The other thing I want to talk about is it is the busy season. Some of the shops are a little bit short-staffed, and so we're turning away a lot of people. The one thing that's really important is on our daily sheet, there's a section in the top right hand that says look and walks, and it has it separated by the hour. It's very important to keep track of look and walks. If you haven't been doing it in the past, that's fine, but please start now. Your manager uses this, and our recruiting department uses this to figure out not only how many people we need to hire, but also where to place them in the schedule. So again, accurately record look and walks from here on out. If you have any questions, you can hit up your manager or you can hit up Jackie or John.
Hi everybody, it's Jeff Calkins, and I have a new title called the Director of Customer Experience, and I want to talk to you about some specific things that we should all be doing at the front desk. So thanks for listening. Here they are. Rudy's customer service expectations. If you've been working here for a while, probably none of this is new to you, but if you're new or maybe you need a refresher on these, it's good that we're all doing all the same things at the shop with every customer. Remember, full service starts when the client calls the shop. When you answer the phone, make sure to say your location and your name. Example, thanks for calling Rudy's Silver Lake. This is Jeff. How can I help you? When you give your name, people know that they're talking to somebody that cares and they can reference your name back later. It's really important. Always use the telephone number as the customer's unique identifier. There are many ways to spell people's last name, but a telephone number is unique to the individual. Please make sure to start off with the telephone number when adding a customer to the database. We have many duplicates that we're constantly cleaning up, and if we just all use the telephone number for the client, it would be much easier. Thank you. Make sure to mark if it's a stylist-specific request. As Nick just spoke to you, our stylists are graded on a KPI, which is retention, and you need to mark that as a request for them. It's really important. Also, you can probably tell what type of service a customer is going to come in for, buzz cut, short cut. But oftentimes there's added-on service such as a beard trim, or maybe they want a color touch-up. Make sure to to book all appropriate services at the time. It'll help with the appointment log and also with the customer before they get in the chair. If you're running late, make sure to let the customer know that you're running late and always quote an accurate wait time. If you've quoted a wait time and you exceed it with the customer, make sure to get back to the customer before it's too late, within a couple of minutes, to let them know it's going to be a little bit longer, or be preemptive and tell them before, hey, the stylist is running a little bit late, but they'll be right with you. There's a coffee shop next door if you want to grab a cup of coffee. We'll be right with you. Thank you. While the customer is checking out, make sure that the client is completely satisfied with the service. You can say to them, how was your service today? Something as simple as that, and they'll let you know. A lot of times you can stop a bad experience before they walks out the door and they get a chance to put up on Yelp or Google. We had an experience the other day in one of our shops where a client came in and they didn't like the service that they got with their original stylist. The front desk could tell that they were upset with the cut, and they asked them, and they were able to fix the problem before the customer walked out the door and wrote us a really nice email about it. So these little things go a long way, and if you can correct those mistakes, you can make a client for life. Also, make sure to double check that the service on the ticket is what's in Zenoti. What the stylist writes down is what you should be using, so make sure that it corresponds to that. Another great thing to do is ask if they'd like to book their next cut appointment. A lot of times we'll see customers week after week for their best cut or shortcut, and booking with them in advance is really helpful for our bookings and for the stylist and for retention, as well as a nice service for our customers. Lastly, thank them for coming in. Let them know you appreciate their business and their service and that you care. This is for everybody. We should all take pride in the appearance of our shop. When we walk into our shop, check around for debris, garbage, whatever, pick it up. It's the first thing that the customer sees is when they're coming to the shop is what the exterior looks like. And a great looking exterior means that the shop will probably be great too, and their service will be awesome. Don't forget that we have to sweep up after every client. It's state law in every state where we operate, so make sure you're doing it. Also, this is a busy season. You can be tempted to rush through clients to turn and burn. But remember, let's take the time to make sure that customers have a complete experience. This may be the time that they're only coming into the shop for the first time, maybe the first time. So if we give them a great experience, we can make them a new customer. And lastly on this list is sick time is for when you're sick. Please don't call out when you're not sick. It goes for stylists too. Not that you have much control over that, but we all know how hard it is to book stylists when they call in sick, rebook all their clients. So please only call in when you're sick and save those other times for the appropriate times. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to talk about our diversity initiative for the second half of 2019 here at Rudy's. So when Rudy's first started in 1993, one of the things that really set us apart from the other barbershops around was that we offered services for both men and women. As times changed, as we evolved with the times, we started offering non-gendered services. So with respect to diversity, one thing that we did notice is that we have a huge blind spot, and we are kind of missing the mark when it comes specifically to ethnic diversity. We get a lot of customer feedback and feedback from people in our shops that we can't always cut diverse hair textures when people come into our shops and have diverse hair textures. So, maybe the instance is that somebody comes in and maybe the one person that can cut diverse hair textures is not working that day, so then we have to send them away. Or maybe no one in the shop can do that haircut, so then we send that client away, and it comes across as discriminatory, obviously. So we need to make sure that if we're saying that we're for everybody, we actually need to be for everybody. So it's kind of a major initiative for us as we work into the second half of 2019. I'm going to talk about some classes. So what we need to do at the front desk, we need to make sure that everyone that comes into the shop is comfortable. We need to be proactive about this. So I'm going to talk about the texture cutting classes that we're going to be offering stylists starting in July, and then just a little bit about what we can all do at the front desk. So we're going to be offering 2 classes alternating monthly starting in July, pretty much going on indefinitely. So one is going to be about theory, and one is going to be a hands-on technical class. So again, the idea is that we give stylists all the tools and the support and the training that they need to be able to cut everyone's hair that comes into the shop. All of the stylists know this. We had stylist town hall, so this is something that they're excited about. They're excited to get some further education so that they can take everybody that comes in. So for now, what you can do at the front desk is work with your manager to create a strategy about who can do these services until everyone is trained. So maybe you have 1 or 2 people in the shop that feel comfortable taking these haircuts. Make sure that you and your manager work out who those people are, and then everyone else, they need to get the training and the tools, and they need to go to these classes. So again, thanks so much, and we look forward to being able to take every service that we can by January of 2020.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's John. I wanted to talk to you about the new cash management policy that we're rolling out. For as long as I can remember, Rudy's hasn't had a cash management policy, which is crazy if you think about it. So now we actually do. Before we get into it, though, I want to remind everyone that works the front desk that's responsible for the till that even though there's a policy about discrepancies now, the worst thing you can possibly do is hide your discrepancies by fudging the numbers so it looks like you're not off. As long as you have a discrepancy and you note it and you put it on the daily sheet and you explain to your manager what you tried to do to resolve it, you're going to be okay. This is for those times where it's either egregious, it happens over and over and over again, or there's just no effort on your end to try to resolve anything. You're just like, oh, whatever. So going into it, all the managers have this. You can see it. It should be posted. It should be in the front desk binder. We're going to go over a few of the bullet points, the meat and potatoes of it all. The first part is the daily cash management part of the policy. You want to remember to always have 2 openers of your opening, midday, and closing. The midday, there's 2 of you there. There's really no excuse for you ever to not have 2 counters at a midday count. If you're doing a double, don't worry about a midday count. You just need your opening and closing. For the opening and closing, you do need to rely on a stylist to count the till with you. If a stylist doesn't want to count the till with you, just note that. Let your manager know why there was only 1. Don't fake someone being down. Again, you want to be truthful in all this. So if someone's not playing ball and trying to help out, just let your manager know. They'll work with you and the rest of the store to try to get everyone on board with this. But most importantly, the midday, again, no excuse not to have 2 counters. The point of doing this is to have it so that it's like a handoff, like your till started and ended at this, and you're signing off at that amount, and your closer is agreeing to what they're taking on and then closing with. It also helps your manager locate where discrepancies happen, so the 2 counts are important. You also want to remember all the shops do have a large amount of money in them, and it's not necessarily the safest idea to put all that money in the till. So that the extra amount you'd want to keep in a lockbox or a safe, not just in an envelope at the drawer by the till or something like that. If your shop does not have a lockbox or a safe, let your manager know so we can know, so we can get that for you. Also, only you, since you're the only one responsible for this cash, should be moving it from the till to the safe or lockbox and vice versa. Don't hand it to someone else to move to somewhere else in the store. You're responsible for it. Just make sure that when it needs to be moved around, you're the one moving it. On that note too, always make sure that you're the only one, or you and your coworkers are the only ones in the store at opening or closing when you're counting the till. Lock the doors, don't let anyone else in. This isn't for the cash safety, this is for your safety. We want to make sure that when you're opening or closing, you're okay, you're safe, and everything goes fine for you. Going into the discrepancy part of the cash management policy, we're going to do what's called the $5 rule. We had to find an amount where if you're over or under X amount, that would be where the policy sort of kicks in. So we decided $5 would be the best of that. If you're over or under $5, it can result in verbal or written counseling, like a write-up or such. Really, as long as you're proactive on finding the discrepancy, helping your manager know what you did to resolve it, you're going to be okay. It's more for if you're like $5 off or under or more, and you write, I don't know, extra money or missing money, that tells us you're not really taking ownership of it, and you don't care, basically, which is where this would kick in. Where there's not a lot of fudging, though, with it, is when your till is over or under past 50. You're responsible for the money again, so we want to make sure that you understand, like, Like, this is a big responsibility we're entrusting you with. $5 over or $50 over or under is a large amount, and more often than not, that will result in a write-up. Do keep in mind, the only way this absolutely will is if you're hiding your numbers, if they're off. Again, if you're proactive and you're working with your manager, you're going to be fine. Just add notes to the daily sheet, to the closing paperwork. Let your manager know the next day when they're on shift what's going on, what happened, and stuff like that. Be proactive. Don't just accept it and move on. Under no circumstances should you be adding your own cash to the till. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I have seen that a lot. Your money's your money. You've earned that. Keep that. The money in the till is the money collected from clients that Rudy's has made. There's no need for you to ever put your own money in to make the till balance. Just don't do it. Your money's yours. Managers at the end of the month will be sending a log, which is basically the daily sheet log at the end of the month to finance, where then finance takes the till balance from day one to the end of the month and sees what the till should be at and compares that to the monthly log. And then both finance and the managers will use that if they have discrepancies between those two amounts to see what went on. With till replenishments, your manager is responsible for that cash from the moment they pull it from the bank to the moment it's inputted into the system. No longer are they going to just, if they've done this, they won't do it anymore, where they just toss the money and go put this in the system, count it, stuff like that. The manager is going to do all that. Once it's inputted in the system, they might still hand it to you to put it in the till. That's okay. They might put it in the till for you. Feel free to always double count a till replenishment. Sometimes it can be off just a little bit. I've had it happen to me. I've seen it happen to other people. That's okay too. The petty cash and incentive money, that also is only going to be handled by your manager. There's a whole policy and a set of steps that your manager has to go through in order to handle and account for this money. So please, if it's Sunday or Monday and you need to do something, reach out to finance or operations and we'll let you know if it's okay to take something to go buy, like toilet paper or something. Don't just do it on your own. You have to get approval for it. When your manager's on shift, they're the ones solely responsible for it. For reconciliations, your managers will complete those daily and finance will do that audit like I mentioned. You're still expected at closing, if you do have a discrepancy, to try to do a quick troubleshoot, verify your numbers that you're transferring over to the daily sheet. If something odd happens with cash handling, note that. If you're off, let your manager know the steps you did to try to reconcile it. Don't write something like "I don't know" or "extra cash" or "missing money." That just tells us that you didn't try to find it. Do some steps. Every little bit of information helps trying to find those reconciliations. With discrepancies, they do happen from time to time, so again, don't be afraid of them. If your till's off, be proactive on finding out why it's off. Let your manager know what you did. You're going to be okay as long as you're trying to resolve it. Any discrepancy that does occur as a result of Zenoti can and will be found. If it's a system error, it's easy to track down. I work with your managers and sometimes with you guys to find those all the time. It's the cash handling stuff that we're really trying to look at. And again, the worst thing you can do is adjust the counts for your till counts to hide any discrepancy. All that does is snowball the problem, and then finally it comes out as a much, much bigger discrepancy. Sometimes it lands on the wrong person's day, and someone who's not off is now responsible for it. It's the worst thing you can do. Again, even though there's a policy, just be proactive on finding out what's going on. Also, I wanted to talk briefly about cut packs. This is just the signage that you have at the front desk for that. They're doing really well. We have a lot of good feedback on them. A couple things to remember about them, though, is we need to be we need to work really hard to make sure that any cut pack that's sold is sold to a client's profile that is their actual profile. If you type in their info and it says multiple profiles found, please merge those before you sell the cut pack. The reason is they're associated with that specific profile that you use at checkout for these. So if the client has more than one and they come in and use a different profile, say at a different store, all of a sudden we're telling them you don't have a cut pack when they just spend a couple $100 on buying one of these. So do merge anything before you sell them. If they want to buy a cut pack and then redeem it for the cut they just got, you do have to sell the cut pack first, and then you can redeem it on the sale after you bring the sale back up for the haircut. Because the cut packs do last 1 year from the time of first redemption, hairstyles for a client can change. If they go from something, say, they originally bought a shortcut pack, and now their haircut's a buzz cut, you would ring out their haircut, even though it's a buzz cut, as a short haircut. This will apply the cut pack deal to it. The stylist gets a little extra commission, that's okay, and then all's done. You don't refund them the difference in the price of the cut. On the flip side, if they got a buzz cut pack and now they're doing a short haircut style, you would ring out a buzz cut for the short cut, and then the difference you would do a miscellaneous service for the remaining difference, and the client would pay that amount. And that would be that. Other than that, I think that's all on cutbacks. If you have questions about these, do let me know, and I'll help you out with them. Just email me.
Hi guys, I want to talk to you, it's Jeff again. I want to talk to you about color best practices, including but not limited to new color pricing. So let's talk about why we're having this conversation first of all. Taking a look historically at the numbers, if we look back at 2017, we did 10,418 units of color, which was about $1.2 million. Our average color price on those was $119.03. So we go to the next year, we dropped actually by 6%. We did 9,783 units. The dollar on that was $1,044,340, which is a 16% drop. Our average color price, actual service that we did, went from $119 the year before to $106, a drop in 10% in pricing. So fast forward to 2019, and we look at our numbers, what we've done today, and we project out what we're going to do for the rest of the year, we're going to actually be down about 50 more haircuts, a drop of 1%. And the dollar on that is $920,455, a drop of 12%. So actually, our prices for this year are averaging about $94.65 for a color service from last year, $106, and the year prior, $119. It's a drop in over 20%. It's pretty significant. If you think about how much we've raised our shortcut prices here in Washington State and in other markets, we've raised them 12.5% in that same time period. Pretty crazy if you think about it. We're really not hitting the mark with color pricing and color services. A lot of people haven't been doing them. So let's talk about how we're going to make this better. I'm going to flip it over here to John to talk about the next.
So getting a proper color service booked for the proper time length and the proper pricing starts from that first interaction with the client to find out what they want. As any of you know, we have a lot of different color services, and we want to start making sure that we're actually booking the correct corresponding color service for what the client wants. And the first step to that is actually learning what each color service actually is. So we're going to go through all these color services that we have in Zenoti. If you have more questions on these as we go through, feel free to ask any of your colorists in the shop, ask your manager, ask your education department, and they can help clarify anything. So the first one is an all-over color, and when you book that, that's always just one color applied from the scalp all the way pulled through to the ends of the hair. It's one color formula, and that's it. A color root retouch is using a color to match the natural regrowth to previous grown-out color. Usually this is about 1 inch of regrowth or less, and if a root retouch is retouching highlights, you would book that as a partial or full foil. There's also a gloss and gray blending. This is the shortest of all the color services. It's usually about a 20-minute service, and it's really just refreshing a color that's been done, that's faded a little bit. It's always done on damp or wet hair, and it does not include a blowout. A partial foil is where highlights or lowlights are applied in foil with partial placement. That's usually around the top to the sides of the head. A full foil is when you're doing highlights or lowlights and you're putting foils in all of the hair. A balayage is actually when your hair is lightened in order to mimic what it naturally does when it's the sun's been on it for a long time. Bleaching tone is like an all-over color, but it's when bleach is applied from the roots all the way through the ends. And a bleaching tone root retouch is when bleach is applied to 1 inch or less of regrowth. Basically, it's the same as an all-over color and a root retouch, just this time bleaching tone and bleaching tone root retouch instead of color, it's bleach. That brings us to a color correction. A color correction is actually when a Any bleach or service has been applied to the hair and the hair is longer than 1 inch. If the current hair color is too light or too dark, too warm, too cool, and the client wants to correct that. Anytime a client calls and says that they need to fix something that's done to their hair in a color aspect, these are color corrections. Don't confuse this with a recolor. That's when we're fixing an error in a color that we've done. Color correction is actually different, and it's priced per hour. Now, what services we offer, we need to figure out what the client wants. This next slide is actually my favorite slide, and it is this amazing flowchart. What this flowchart is going to do is it's going to help you give a guide from talking to the client and key questions to ask to point you to what service they actually want to book. I actually was shown this back in March at the managers conference, and what happened was the education department put us into groups and handed an envelope out where there was a role playing of 2 different color clients coming in to book a color, and I had to play the role of a receptionist trying to figure out what it was. We were told to just use the flowchart. Using just this, I was able to figure out and correctly book both those services. Even the managers that I was in the groups with were colorists and asked me, why didn't I ask this question or that question? And I said it wasn't on the flowchart, and it still got me to where I was supposed to be. So this does work. Rely on it. Use it. If you don't have it at your desk, let your manager know. We'll get you laminated copies of this. Back when I was a receptionist, if I had this, booking color would have been 1,000 times easier than having to use all those post-it tips and tricks that are around the front desk. You can really use this to replace all those. The reason why we want to try to book the proper services is not just for pricing, but it's also for timing. Each different color has a different time associated with it. And we all know that our colorists are sometimes our more popular stylists, so if we book them the wrong color, we could overbook or underbook them based on the other haircuts that are in their schedule already. So making sure we get that proper color service from the beginning helps us ensure that the rest of our day goes smooth. Another trick you can use if you're booking things correctly is you can look at a client's past history. For an example, here's a client who has not been booked correctly every time they've come in. You can see there's a whole hodgepodge of different colors that have been booked, so their client history is really useless to us. If we had been using the tools that we had and the tools that we have going forward, such as the flowchart, we'll be able to get a consistent booking of what their color service is so that we can start utilizing that last service that they've done to confirm what they're going with. One thing you will notice is you can see how long ago it was their last service. So if they say, oh, I just need to get my roots done, but it's been 3 months, it's not going to be a root service. It's going to be an all-over color or all-over bleach and tone. Another thing you do look at when you look at these is you see the pricing of their previous color service. Going forward, we will no longer give color quotes over the phone. That's not to say that if a client calls and wants to know why you can't give them a quote, you don't go because we're not allowed to. You would want to let them know we can't do this because we don't know what their hair is. We don't know the texture, the thickness, the length, what's already been done to it and what they're trying to do to it. So if they do want a quote, especially because we are still asking for that $30 deposit to book a color service, book them a consultation. Consultations are free. They can come in, they can talk to a colorist, they can get a quote then, they can actually book the service then. Do not book them a consultation with the color service booked directly after. You still don't know what color service they are without the consultation, so it's pointless to do that. You run the risk of still booking the wrong thing. A couple helpful questions to ask for all color clients is how long is your hair? How long has it been since your last color service? What color is your hair now? Are your roots the same color as your ends? Is your hair colored or natural? And have you been coloring your hair at home? All these questions lead to ideas of what they would need. How long has it been since your last color service? If it's only been a few weeks or a month, that's probably a root retouch. If it's been a couple months, it's probably not a retouch and it's probably a full service. What color is your hair now? That helps you know if it's maybe a gloss or maybe it's a color correction. Have you been coloring your hair at home? That would immediately let you know if they've been doing stuff to their hair, so you would know to book it as a color correction instead of an all-over color or such. Again, things to keep in mind is never quote a color price over the phone. If they really don't want to book it, especially with the deposit, without a quote, book them a consultation. If your manager still requires a consultation for any color booking first, do book that consultation. Again, don't book a consultation with color service right after. They would have to come in for a second visit for that color service, or book the color service after the consultation when they're in the shop for later that day. Remember, hair grows about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch per month, and a root retouch is usually an inch or less. No color service other than gloss and gray blending should be booked for under 2 hours unless approved by the colorist performing the service. Do know that if that colorist and you're trying to book a color for them is currently with a client, don't interrupt that client's service to ask the colorist how long it would take. That client and that stylist are in the middle of that service. You wouldn't want to be interrupted. That client doesn't want to be interrupted. Wait till after they're done, and then you can adjust any booking as needed. When in doubt, always book a consultation. That's your best friend that you can do if you're not sure what's going on with the color. And utilizing all these tools that are going out will always help you book the correct time and the correct service. Timing is everything when it comes to the books, so these tools will help you to make sure you don't over or underbook. Another thing I wanted to talk about is adjusting prices for services manually. One thing I've noticed is a lot of people will cut corners of the front desk to save time, which is okay if it's a corner that we are able to cut. In this case, changing a price of a service manually is not something that we can actually cut to save time. For instance, a client is set up to have a short haircut, and when they come to the counter, the stylist has actually written down a buzz cut price because that's what they got. You cannot change manually the price of the shortcut to match the buzz cut. What happens is services are set up, some of them with non-commissionable dollars on the back end of the service. So in this case, say in Washington, there's $1 non-commissionable on a short haircut. If you manually change that to $15 to match the buzz cut price, the stylist who should be getting their commission rate off $15 is actually now getting it off $14. You're essentially taking $1 away from that stylist, and this does add up over time. So what you would want to do is you do want to make sure that you remove the shortcut and add the buzz cut. The quickest way to do this is actually not from the sales screen, but if you go to modify appointment before you take it to the sales screen, you can add the proper service, remove the old service. You can make sure it has the request for the stylist, you can have the proper times. Now, if a stylist does come up with a ticket that says something like, say, 25, like it wasn't a buzz cut, but it wasn't a shortcut, this is the time that you would actually manually adjust the price of the short haircut. You wouldn't add a buzz and beard or something else to equate to what they're charging. And this is so that the manager can track what's going on. If you've ever had a client who normally was cut a quote-unquote deal by a stylist, say the $25, and then they go to a different one and that stylist charges the full amount, the client's not happy. So this is something that we do want to make sure the stylists aren't doing to cut corners or anything like that, and your manager will address this. So this is the one time you would do that. We also do track different services to see how we want to adjust our prices, what promotions we want to run and such. Also on this note, you don't want to manually adjust discounts to equate to a campaign or discount that we're currently offering. Again, marketing does keep track of how often these are used to see which ones are successful, which ones we want to continue to do, which ones no one uses so we can get rid of. The only time you would manually do a discount is if you're doing a customer service situation. Say someone got a short haircut, they weren't happy. In order to make that client happy, then you would do like a manual 10% discount or such. That's when you would add that on. Also, this mostly applies to the Washington market, but I wanted to touch briefly on front desk floater changes. A floater is someone who's hired who does not have a home shop. They don't have a permanent shift anywhere in the market, and all they do is pick up shifts for coverage at different stores. In the past, we've had a floater manager. Going forward, we will no longer have a manager for these floaters. Each floater will be assigned a home shop. It does not mean that they will get a permanent shift at that shop. It just means that that manager will be responsible for relaying all important information in regards to procedure and policy changes to the floater, It would also be such as signing them up for presentations like these, company meetings. You can invite that store is actually welcome to invite those floaters to their shop meetings if there's information they need to relay there. All floaters in the market will also be delivering their availability to HR, which will then send out at the first of the month communication newsletter. This is so that we know what shops they can work at, what shifts they can work at, which ones they can't, so managers aren't just calling around blindly trying to find somebody. The availability is not necessarily set in stone, so that's why we'll have them do that monthly.
Thank you all for coming to this front desk town hall. We hope you appreciate it and hope we shared some enlightening stuff with you. If you have any questions about any of the content here, you can reach out to your shop manager or John, myself, or Nick. Thanks again. Have a great day.